Hello everyone and welcome back to another AFK journey video. In this video I wanted to share the Supreme Arena defenses I'm planning to run for this week, and most importantly we're going to lead it off with map number 2, which is an all new, never before seen map effect. So let's read it. Infinite Front Thundering Doom deals true damage equal to 20% of max health to the frontmost enemy or ally and reduces their maximum health by an amount equal to 50% of their lost health every 5 seconds. So because in the wording it says frontmost enemy or ally, it doesn't say and ally, I think what it might mean is whichever hero is considered frontmost from your side's perspective. Like for example, like let's say my Thorin only makes it up to maybe around this tile, maybe this tile, and the opponent frontline makes it up to this tile. Then he is going to be overall considered more frontline compared to me, because like this would be like, basically this one would be considered this, but if he's over here, he's going to be one tile basically more frontline compared to me. So basically whichever heroes enter the enemy's backline or the enemy's side of the field the quickest, like even for example Mauler buff tiles, I think they're going to be weaker in this map, because I think those are the ones who are actually going to be taking the damage, and it's pretty high amount, true damage of 20% max health, and I think that's triggering every 5 seconds. Along with the reduction based on however much lost health they've had, like it can actually deal pretty high damage. So even if, for example, it is the case that like both sides frontline hero is going to be taking this damage, even though the wording suggests that it doesn't because it says or, but even if it is, I still would be happy Thorin taking the damage, because like if Thorin is casting his ultimate while he's taking that damage, it's going to be added into his damage reflect most likely and hitting the enemies harder. Also, Thorin has 3 lives, no other hero has that many lives, so he's the perfect hero to be taking so much extra damage. So I think this is really good, and like Thorin is a slow hero and he's going to enter the front line pretty slowly compared to the opponent. He's also on one of the backmost tiles we can begin with. So if it is the case that whoever is considered the most frontline from their perspective is taking the damage, and I would be safe from the damage. So yeah, this is a really good team. Like I mentioned, if you don't have Scarlita, you can replace her for Talene. For example, Talene does well in stall-oriented teams as well, because your other heroes are so difficult to kill. It gives Talene a lot of time to keep reviving and get off her damage. But yeah, I think any sort of Thorin type team would be a good strategy for this map, but just don't run it with other heroes who can quickly make it to the front line. Potentially you could even go for like a Thorin Iron nuke team. However, the problem with that is like even if Iron is on this back tile, Iron immobilizes and groups up the enemies, so it's going to make them slower to reach the front tile, and then maybe your Thorin will be taking the effect of this Thundering Doom. But like I mentioned, even if Thorin is taking it, it might even be a good thing sometimes for a more powerful damage reflect. Okay, so I think Thorin does really well in this map. If you don't have Florabelle, you can replace her for a thing like Lily May would be good. Persa can even work in a team like this. Those are some decent options. Okay, let's move on to the other maps. But like I mentioned, I think that the best faction talents here are going to be the Wilders, maybe even Hypergy and Celestial, but basically you don't want to have the Mauler faction talents for this map, because they're going to be teleported into the enemy team, they're going to be considered frontmost, and they're going to be taking this damage, which you want to try to avoid. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, in the end, this damage amount might not be so game changing, and so like you might just be able to run any team here and do fine. I don't think like this is gonna totally like break a Mauler team in this map by taking this extra damage every 5 seconds, because matches can be determined within 15 to 20 seconds already. So just 3 or 4 rounds of this damage probably won't be enough. Okay, now in my first team, I am going to try Lucius here instead of Temesia. And so, recommended this in my Discord server, but also I was just thinking in general, Lucius probably makes more sense in a team like this than Temesia, because we have the Rowan energy generation, and Lucius will be able to make better use of that with more shield casting, and that can also protect our team. And most of our team is going to be grouped up and can get a value from the Lucius shield. Also, like, well, I think though Temesia has some advantages over Lucius. Like previously, I would always be running a team like this, and especially with the Valor Shield spell, the first 10 seconds she has those increased defenses. She's going to be practically unkillable, and she knocks down some enemies in the backline as well, although crowd control can be countered by like unaffected buff tiles like Wilder and Mauler buff tiles, but she also has pretty decent damage. So Yeah, I mean, she has some sort of interruption, which is why she's favored against Lucius, but Lucius is more shielding and protection for your team. And I want to try it at least for a while to see maybe it will do better. And definitely also if you had, for example, no Vala here, or if you want to run Rowan on the buff tile, I think like the more massive energy generation for Lucius could keep your team pretty much permanently shielded, which could also be pretty strong. So that's something to consider as well. But for me, I like to go for a triple damage threat here: Tassi, Vala, and Lily May. Because the problem is if you have only one damage here, like let's say you only have Tassi but you have no other damage threat here, I feel like the team is weaker overall, and it might not have the firepower to break through enemy teams. This team has a lot of threat. Like Vala is going to be hitting someone, Lily May is going to be hitting someone with Rainstorm Ballet, and then there's all going to buy time for Tassi to charge up her ultimate, and then Tassi can finish people off. Because I think Tassi does best after the enemies are already weakened, and then she can cast and double cast her ultimate with the light bearer tiles, and then just finish off the enemies. You can also run Tassi in a Mauler team, and I was thinking about doing that, and other people have said like it does well for them having Tassi in a Mauler team. And you know, you can even run two different Mauler teams. Like for example, I have leftover heroes like Brutus, Smokey, Odie, even Elsa, which I could use in a team. But I feel like overall these are my weaker Maulers, and if I ran them, then I would not be able to use like Vala and Lily May into this team. And I think that I could still use Lily May, but I couldn't use Vala. And I feel like because of the heroes I have, this is going to be a better team for me. And I know this team works. That Mauler team like is an idea with the Tassi. I don't know if it necessarily will be better than this team I have here. And Valley Shield spell I think is essential for Tassi teams. It gives your tank much more tankiness. It gives your backline Tassi unaffected, a shield, and that bonus haste to charge her ultimate faster, which she really desperately needs, because otherwise she charges really slowly. So I really like this defense, and if you've recruited for Tassi, it's a great option. If you haven't recruited for Tassi, then I would probably recommend go for a Mauler team. So I would say we would go for still Lily May here, and then we can go for something like either Smokey or Elsa on the buff tile, something like this. I think this can be really strong. Here you would probably want to go for Resonating Spell to power up the Odie further. Odie is actually good on the buff tile, same with Smokey, because Smokey then ends up in a position which is more favorable for your team. Like he'll end up in a position where he's going to be buffing up your team with the attack and haste buff, and also hitting people with blue aura if he survives that long. Also, he has a shield. If you have the final node of stage 3 unlocked for Mauler Faction Talent Tree, then he's also going to be immune to the first fatal blow. So this is actually a pretty deadly team. And then for the final hero, I mean, you could go for some sort of healing here. You could go for another damager like Vala in the back. Yeah, definitely you could go for Vala or something like that. Maybe a team like this. Or you could go for, like we mentioned, Tassi is runnable here. Then you would want to put Tassi on one of the back tiles. Probably instead of the Smokey, you could go for Tassi like here. If you have Tassi built, this is a good idea to try. But yeah, there are a lot of options basically for that final hero, whichever one you want to run. But I would do Resonating Spell with Odie. And this is a team that has actually been doing pretty well on Clash fronts as well. I think the Mauler buff tiles in general are just a really strong PvP talent tree because the fact that they are immune to the first fatal blow when you have that final node of stage 3 unlocked, and they're unaffected at the beginning of the match, which are both really strong effects. Now for my final team, I have my Mauler team. And look what we're doing here. So again, of course, we're going to have Rainier in front of Shakira to power him up as much as we can. Mikola for more attack buff for the team. Verdant Spell for the penetration on the Shakira for damage, and also the damage reduction onto your tanks. And also good stat distribution and tankiness. We have Coco with the energy of the main Freya. So number one is because then the illusion will be walking up, I think, first, and he'll be taking the aggro of the enemies, which we want. We don't want the main Freya to die first. And also Coco is going to be able to cast her ultimate quicker. She's on the buff tile, which will mean she will be teleporting the enemy team. But actually there's one skill that I was reading where it's actually good if you're closer to the enemies. It is her Pato Smash. Now, Coco throws a Mighty Spirit at the target. If there's an enemy within her adjacent tiles and you're going to be right next to enemies, Pato will smash the ground, dealing damage to adjacent enemies and stunning them for 3 seconds. And this effect can only be triggered once every 8 seconds. So stunning them for 3 seconds, it's actually more crowd control having her in the middle of the enemy team. And she's pretty protected because of the immune to fatal blow. And then we have damage reduction on Mikola. Hopefully Mikola can survive. So I'm really excited about this team. I think another good option would be Great Sword Spell for a more offensive, like, stat line. Not really for the... Or even here, you could go for Valor Shield Spell. Valor Shield spell giving the haste to Shakira is pretty deadly as well. It does give you a good stat distribution. You could even go for Binding Spell for more lockdown, but I like Verdant Spell. I'm going to try it. Normally I have pretty good results with it. So overall, this is my final team. Again, if you are missing Frasto, you could run... well, here would be actually a good example of a team where you could run Tassi as well if you wanted to. You could run Vala as well over here on the buff tile. I like Vala on the buff tile. Maybe I wouldn't run Mikola if you don't have the Frasters to control the Honor Arena. Maybe Shakir would be enough along with Mikola and maybe one other hero teleported. But definitely you could run something like Brutus in the front here. Could do Brutus over here. And then one other damage, either Tassi or Vala in the back. I think this would be really strong. And Lily May can be run in a Mauler team as well. But I really like the idea of having Coco on this tile along with Shakir. I think that is a pretty good option. And yeah, so those are basically my ideas for the teams this week. As you can tell, I have steered away from the... Believe without saving and re-show you the teams. I've steered away from the Almas Iron team because I feel like in this season it's a lot weaker because of the fact that the opponents have a lot of ways of coming unaffected. Valor Shield spell as well as the unaffected tiles of Wilder Maulers. So I think that maybe it's better to not use the Iron team. But if you don't have any better option and you have a well-developed Iron team, then definitely use it. It can still get wins against a lot of enemy teams. It has a lot of firepower like Iron, Carolina, Aradin, Rowan, Almas type team, or Lily May Almas. It's really strong. But I think that this team overall is going to be stronger. And so that's why I'm going to try to run it. I don't know whether Lucius will be better than Tunisia, but definitely if you don't even have Tunisia highly ascended and you have Lucius built, then this can be good for you. But basically the choice is between Lucius, Tunisia, maybe even Corrin. Could even run Corrin here if your other heroes are not highly ascended, but I think Lucius will provide more for the team with more tankiness and shielding, or same with Tunisia. So anyway guys, that is going to be it for this video, but actually with the Valor Shield spell, like Corrin would also be pretty tanky. So you could definitely try Corrin here. It might even be better because like he also deals a lot of damage and shields your team. But Lucius has more shielding. But anyway guys, hopefully this was helpful and good luck on Supreme Arena this week. I think overall these are pretty much close to my best arrangement of teams I can do. I really like the idea we have for this Thundering Doom. I think it should work out well. But yeah, if you guys have any other ideas, you can share them in the comment section or in my Discord server. There's a link to that in the description of this video. But thanks for watching guys. That's going to be it for this video. I'll hopefully see you guys in the next video. And until then, everyone, peace out for now and thank you for watching.